there's the women's elite field with Diana van Es, one of the outstanding favourites for the Netherlands.
Well, you can see there the lines of personal bests, and of course that time set this season by Diana van Es in New York, and it is over 90 seconds quicker than the rest of the field. The interesting thing when it comes to the Dutch athlete is she is entered in tomorrow's 10k as well, and is in with a decent shot of a medal there too. So how she attacks this race and how her tactics pan out, being so far ahead on personal bests in comparison to the rest of the field, I think will be really interesting. Well, you can see the two different start lines there. We will bring the women forward. They will be introduced alongside the men. And then there will be a time gap between the elite men starting, the elite women starting, and then 45 seconds back to the masses. We have 10,000 athletes, recreational runners going in the mass start as well, as we see Diana van Es in incredible form, and like we said, over 90 seconds quicker than the rest of the field based on that personal best that she set in March in New York. Esther Pfeiffer as well comes into this in excellent form, setting a new personal best in this distance, but only 6 days ago in Berlin. Third fastest in this field.
For Netherlands, Diana van Es.
Diana van Es now introduced into the crowd, and expecting plenty of spectators along the course.
Representing Germany, Esther Pfeiffer.
It'll be interesting to see how Esther Pfeiffer has recovered from that new personal best set in Berlin just 6 days ago. Rebecca Lonedo, part of a very strong Italian contingent who will have their eyes on the team prize. Her third half marathon of the season so far. Lisa Shine, part of a strong travelling Slovenian contingent, well placed to take at least one medal home from these championships. Juliette Thomas, the home favourite, 69.48 personal best, comes in to this race off the back of a quick 46 of the member federations represented throughout our elite fields, and of course the mass starts as well. Diana van Es with the pink sunglasses, poised and ready to go. Pfeiffer to the side of her, one to watch in this race as well. And underway now.
Well, that was strange. Nearly a minute after the men. That was supposed to be a 30-second gap. It matters not. You've got your clock running, Ellen, on the women. I've got my clock running on the men. And the masses behind, as you can see, moving into position. They should start in another 45 seconds, but who knows after that?
Well, we've been speaking to some of the teams who, of course, have those in amongst the elite field, but also have athletes in the mass start, and they were hoping to, on some occasions, to try and bridge the gap, and it looks, with particularly now that being an extra minute, that won't be possible. We expect a 45-second gap before the mass starts. No surprise to see Diana van Es holding the front row there. Juliette Thomas alongside her.
Yeah, that's quite a big men's pack, isn't it? Different first few minutes in the women's race to the men's, where we've got 3 or 4 out in front of the men's race, single file, and Gressier asking all the questions, whereas here you've got, well, that pack looks about 25 strong, Ellen.
The 3 kilometre mark up this climb, the most significant climb, and you can see in the background as well those in the men's mass start field making their way up and joining the women now. The athletes, the teams were given clarification yesterday in the technical briefing on what constitutes as pacing, as you know, with these mass starts and a mixed race now, as the women are passed by some of the men who were in the mass participation race. There was questions around whether, if the athletes choose to stick, the male athletes choose to stick with the women, what would constitute as pacing, and all the teams given clarity on that yesterday in the technical briefing. Chloe Herbiet and Juliette Thomas leading the way, the 2 Belgian athletes. Juliette Thomas competing in the European cross country in Brussels in 2023, part of the team that put in an excellent run. It all came down to the minutiae of a couple of points in the end for Belgium to secure third as the senior women's team, and a real solid effort from all the athletes who took part on that day to get Belgium onto the podium. You can see the tall figure of Esther Pfeiffer as well lurking behind Diana Van Es, who seems very relaxed. I think this is exactly the position that she would want to be in. Looking ahead to tomorrow, she'll want to do the doubles. She's got fierce competition in the women's 10 kilometres though, and will want to leave something in the tank. So if she can let the two Belgian athletes do the work here, I think she'll be quite happy.
Here's the leading women hitting the canal for this section of only about 100 metres before they turn left away from it again.
Yeah, so our leading 4 women all going through 5 kilometres at 16:40. They're somewhat split off 12 seconds to the next challenger and the next pack behind.
As we see this leading women's pack. Now there's Pfeiffer, who fascinates me because she ran superbly last week in Berlin, broaching new ground, the 27-year-old German. She was 7th in Berlin just 6 days ago. It was a personal best, Ellen, by 34 seconds. She'd only just dipped under 70 seconds before, but last week in Berlin, 69.15. And it was far from ideal conditions in Berlin. It was 5 degrees centigrade. It was a really cold morning, and there was quite a breeze across the German capital too.
Yeah, I think she'll feel like she's in a very good position for a medal here based off that. And as things stand, she, is in a very good position to look ahead for a medal. She has the two Belgian athletes ahead of her, and Diana Van Es, who I think is just tucked in there behind now. I can see the blue nails. She posted on Instagram this morning that she tries to match her nails with her race shoes. And
you noticed this, did you? Is that the sort of thing you check?
You've always got to check it. You've always got it. Not so much the nails, but it is really great in this social media age to see how open and honest the athletes are with their following on social media. She's spoken a lot on Instagram, particularly about how challenging she's found managing her confidence levels ahead of big events, and particularly that impressive silver medal at the European Championships has done a lot to change that. And you look after that, she's done a huge amount, and she's clearly carrying a lot of confidence, and her mindset has certainly changed when it comes to big championship races. That she's quite happy to attempt to line up for the double this weekend amongst what is a very, very tough 10,000 metre field tomorrow. Sat at the back of this 4 though, as once again a reminder that you can see some of the men from the mass start. It's Chloe Herbiet now who's pushing the pace, the Belgian athlete in the white singlet. She's followed by Juliette.
Good to see this fast running, Ellen, isn't it? She's running really gracefully, Herbiet here. And I like the fact that on paper she's not the same class as Van Es or indeed the German Pfeiffer, but she's actually taking it to them. She's giving it a go.
Tim, you mentioned your concerns about Esther Pfeiffer just 6 days after running a new personal best in this distance, and she has been dropped off the back of the group. It was Chloe Herbiet pushing the pace, Juliette, her teammate, matching it, and of course no surprise to see the fastest in the field by over 90 seconds, Diana Van Es going with them as well, and now leaving Esther Pfeiffer, the German, trailing behind.
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? Because I reckon she and her coach must have realised that that's not optimal behaviour, to run a personal best in a half marathon in your capital city and then 6 days later have another shot at a half marathon. Now, she is a prolific racer. Last year, she ran 9 half marathons, Esther Pfeiffer. But amongst those was 18th in the European Championships in Rome, which she was probably a bit disappointed with. But she has run her 7 best times in the last 12 months as Pfeiffer. And I guess she would have known that maybe she'd come into this race tired today, and she's having to accept what's unfolding here.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke about it before, didn't we, Tim? Championship racing in this kind of course where it has its undulations and it has its incredibly long flat sections. It is challenging for every athlete in this field, but also poses opportunities as well for others. And she would have come into this confident of form, but like you say, potentially slightly tired, and would have had hopes of a medal. Of course, we could see the twists and turns, and there's plenty left to go in this race, as we're just over 8.7 kilometres. she's not out of it yet in terms of a medal battle. You never know what's going to happen ahead, but we do have the three in the podium position moving along very nicely at the moment.
Well, time has just come up for Jimmy Gressier at 10k of 27.50. I find that hard to believe. It shows he's run around 14 minutes for his second 5k, Jimmy Gressier. I mean, he has really attacked this course. Diana Van Aers, that shot we got just now, she looked very, very relaxed. I think she's coasting through this first half.
Now our leading trio of women, once again, it's Chloe Herbiet pushing the pace, continuing to drive on, and Diana Van Aers moving now ahead of Juliette Thomas. Brilliant to see so much support out around the courses. Continuing to head north, the women haven't hit the point in which they'll turn and head back towards the city along the canal, a long straight stretch that they tackle before they come back to the streets of Leuven.
Interesting, isn't it, the way the two races contrast, because this women's pack is moving along quite comfortably, 4 or 5 athletes involved, and Van Aers, who's the outstanding favourite, probably could have taken this to the others, Jimmy Gressier style, but she's chosen to sit in there. I wonder if Ellen, she will make a move at some point in this second half. I mean, they've got 31 minutes on the clock now. They're getting close to 10k, but they've chosen a very different rollout of this race to Gressier, who has taken it to the opposition in the men's race and made everybody stretch out. And just about everybody in that men's race should be pretty much redlining, because they've been dropped and they're trying to run optimal pace on this particular day in what look glorious conditions, I have to say. But this women's field, Ellen, they're playing a cagey game at the moment.
Yeah, and I think Chloe Herbiet started to notice that, took a look to the side, maybe said something to Diana Van Aers, and in very much similar fashion to what Jimmy Gressier did, what seems like a while ago now, saying if you're going to ride along with us as, of course, 2 Belgian athletes who'll be in it for the team side of things as well, we'll bring you the 10-kilometre splits when they flash up on our screen. Well, here the women now coming to the official 10-kilometre mark. And through in under 33.20. Leading trio still, spanning the width of the path here along the canal.
Yeah, 10k 33.20 represents almost exactly 70 minutes for the women. So it is a race of a very different nature, far more cautious through the first half, Ellen. I really think there's going to be some fireworks in this second half. I wonder who's going to lose patience and kick away, if Van Aers will leave it late or if she'll go early.
Well, it's hard to tell, isn't it, as the splits for 10 kilometres come up on the screen. Juliette Thomas, Diana Van Aers, Chloe Herbiet all going through in 33.16. Esther Pfeiffer further back now. She was with this trio, but couldn't match the pace after smashing her own personal best last week in Berlin. Hannah Irwin down in 8th, the only representative of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Due to have Natasha Phillips in the field as well, very promising under 20 athlete who unfortunately has had to withdraw with a knee injury.
Pfeiffer quite a long way back. She's nearly 20 seconds back from that trio. Gosh, she's lost a lot of ground in the last 10 minutes as Pfeiffer. You see Jimmy Gressier now way out in front. In fact, just checking, I think top up picture, that's that women's lead pack. They're negotiating this sharp turn out in the countryside. Is this the women's pack bottom up picture?
Yeah, it certainly looks like the chase pack, and of course some of the men's mass start runners leading the way there. And
9 women in that pack. That's a big pack.
Certainly is, but you just look at the comparison, particularly between the two athletes who are behind Chloe Herbiet, and it is a real contrast in terms of the expressions between Diana Van Aers and Juliette Thomas, who very few occasions, particularly over the course of the last 5 kilometres, have we seen Juliette lead this race. As she takes another look to her side, Chloe Herbiet has been the one who's been pushing the pace, in very good form herself, an improvement of well over a minute taken off her personal best over this distance in February. But Diana Van Es, the strongest and fastest by well, it says there over a minute. It's more towards 90 seconds that this Dutch athlete has, and she just looks so much smoother. Takes a quick look at her watch, and now she goes alongside Chloe Herbiet, and you wonder, Tim, if this is where she'll start to move.
Yeah, little glance at watch there, about 2/3 distance almost. And Van Es, who has set a big half marathon personal best 4 weeks ago, 68.03 in New York. She actually loves that New York half marathon. The last 3 editions, she's been 4th, 5th and 4th in the New York half. It's one of the big North American half marathons. And she said she's very proud of her performances in championships in particular. She thinks she's got great ability to focus on championships and get it right, Diane Van Es. So, you know, confidence is a hugely underrated factor when it comes to distance racing. You've got a lot of time to think on your feet. It's not like the sprints where you don't really have much time to think. In the distances, confidence can play a very, very significant part.
And it's something you have to work on. It's something that she has spoken so openly about working on, particularly over the course of the last 12 months, something that really came to a head with that brilliant performance in Rome. And you can just see the way that she's continuing to push on with that, taking almost 90 seconds off her personal best in New York. She is in exceptional form and carrying enough confidence to put her name not just on the start list, but to fully expect to line up there tomorrow. She was briefly in the lead. She has dropped back now, and I just wonder whether this pace is slowing slightly from the women, or whether those in that chase pack are rallying slightly. Marisol Soler of Spain is the athlete in the orange, who's trying to bridge the gap. No one else from that chase pack of around 6 now going with her. Leading trio on for 70-minute pace, 70:11 at 10 kilometres was the predicted finish time. And Herbiet again turning the screw. Van Es tucked in behind. And incredibly still as well. You know, that the sun is beating down. It is getting warmer and warmer. We're expecting highs of 25 degrees today, but particularly for our earlier runners going in the elite fields. And of course, the first couple of waves of the mass starts, it is really nice conditions, very, very still indeed. And so when they are on these open and long stretches, they aren't being too affected by the wind, and particularly as the women now coming back down the canal and heading south once again into the city. It is a very nice stretch, and one where you can just get into your rhythm. And we've seen that with Gressier as he just floats along. You can see that he's very focused on just maintaining his pace and his rhythm. It's the same for the women there as well. As here is our chaser for currently in 4th place.
Pfeiffer, I think.
Yes, no, Pfeiffer? I think it's
Soler.
Soler. Yeah, Marisol Soler, who is in that group. There are 3 of the mass start men who started over a minute, over 2 minutes behind the men's elite field, and almost a minute behind the women. And then the chase pack, who occupy currently the berths at 5 downwards, and a group of 6 women.
Well, if the elite women get to 15k in just under 50 minutes, that'll be 70-minute tempo. That would maintain what they produced through the first 10k. There were 33.16, remember, at 10k. That's a big pack moving well. Chasing pack of women.
Yeah, bookended by some of the mass start athletes.
Beautiful running conditions. Look at that, dead straight, dead flat, good road surface. It's a nicely thought through course.
It's excellent road service. It's great to mention that, Tim. There's no fear of any trip hazards as long as they stick to the right side of the road. And it has been the same three women leading this race. And this is the challenge now, coming from behind.
Yeah, Juliette Thomas looking strong there, along with Van Es. And also tucked in there is her teammate. Is it Herbiet?
Yeah, Chloe Herbiet has done a huge amount of the hard work as they approach the drink station. The athletes able to put bottles on either side, and it doesn't look like our leading trio have any intention of veering off to pick up a bottle. They are being pursued, you can see, by Soler as Thomas goes over to take on some fluids, and Soler has picked up one of the bottles that she would have left at the team hotels to be brought out and left around the course, and she's moving incredibly well here. They've waiting still on the splits at 15 kilometres. I don't believe we've reached that point quite yet on the road, despite the graphic. And if you look wider, you can see it's been an incredible job so far from Soler to try and close the gap. And moving along, you can't really see. You can just make out through the crowd behind the six women in the chase pack.
I mean, that's the 15k drink station, or just past 15k, I think. So those women, the split times are taking a little while to come through. I think they're well past 15k now, and nothing's come up on our timing system. Not quite sure what's causing the delay.
This is Marisol Soler, currently in 4th. Made her Olympic debut last summer in Paris, finishing 25th in the marathon. 32nd at the European Championships in the half marathon in Rome. A huge step up in terms of her performance.
Big question mark, Ellen, is Van Es there in the orange, toying with these two Belgians in front of their home crowd? They're running beautifully, or is she having a bad day?
Well, a change in the order of the trio at the front of the women's race, and after looking fairly laboured just a few kilometres back, Juliette Thomas, who is now pushing the pace. She's matched from behind by both her teammate Chloe Herbiet and Diana Van Es, who has just been there and lurking. She hasn't taken on any of the hard work. She's sat back and let the two home athletes put in all the hard yards, particularly Chloe Herbiet, who just a moment ago looked like she might be struggling because of it. Up to the 18-kilometre mark now as they make their way through the city, and this will be such a welcome sight. Diana Van Es has now taken the lead. We were waiting for the moment when she would pounce, and she has now done it, and it seems to have broken Juliette Thomas, who had dropped off the back of this trio. Chloe Herbiet able to keep on the heels of the Dutch woman so far. And now the break has been made by Chloe Herbiet, who was shot well ahead now of the two who she was previously in a trio with. She was pushing the pace throughout the last 10 kilometres. Every time it surged, it was down to her. And on home soil, she is striding away. A look over the shoulder. Diana Van Es, who is the fastest in the field by quite some margin, is sat back with Juliette Thomas. And, well, she's been moving so well, the Dutch athletes. And you just wonder, is this tactical to save something tomorrow? Will she be happy with just 2 podium places with the time? Surely the prowess that she has in the half marathon, you'd have expected to see her push for gold. But it is Chloe Herbiet, the national champion over the marathon distance in 2023. Made a brilliant step up to the marathon over the course of the last 2 years. And showing some good pace on the road over 10 kilometres this season, and breaking her personal best, taking over 1 minute and 16 seconds off her previous time.
Well, Van Aert doesn't look that interested, does she? I think you might be right. Perhaps she's thinking a couple of rostrums is better than a first and 10th, let's say. If she gives everything here to take gold in this half marathon, although I'm a little bit surprised that she's not going for it. Maybe she's thinking, if I can get second or third here and produce and save something for tomorrow and get another medal tomorrow, that's a little bit more historic than a win and then further back down the field, nowhere near a medal in the 10k tomorrow.
Yeah, about 7 minutes left of running for the women, and you do wonder whether that is the case, or has Chloe Herbiet kicked too early? She has been pushing the pace. This is Melissa Soler, who was trying to bridge the gap and get into the medal positions. It all looks set now, up towards the 19-kilometre point, and some tricky corners, some sharp uphills around these final few kilometres for the women. And now Van Aert dropping even further back, and Juliette making a surge forward. Chloe Herbiet well in control. Van Aert taking on some water, does exactly what we've seen the men do, just throw it over herself straight away. It is heating up as we head towards the middle of the day here in Leuven. And Van Aert, while she had looked so comfortable, that stride now just shortening. She doesn't look half as comfortable as we'd seen through the first 17 or so kilometres of this race, where she was just flowing along so nicely behind the two Belgian athletes. Juliette currently stuck in the second position in this women's half marathon. Chloe Herbiet off the front now, the 26-year-old, personal best of 70.04. Right behind pace of that. If you look back through the splits, of course we'll see where they come through 20 kilometres at.
You know what's interesting is Herbiet is a great marathon runner. She's a 2:24 marathon runner. She's gone early here to use her strength, because you look at her track times, and frankly, with all due respect, Chloe Herbiet, she's having a fabulous run here today and may take gold, but she hasn't got a single track time anywhere near world class.
No.
And yet her marathon running 2:24 is world class. That's fantastic running. So that strength factor was her strength, and she has let it roll out here today. And tactically, she's got it exactly right.
Yep, nailed on in terms of the tactics. And you look at those personal bests very similarly, Tim. It's a very similar picture to Juliette Thomas. Definitely stronger over those road races, over 5k and above on the track, but unable to match Chloe Herbiet and her kick here. And well, this is exactly what the local organising committee, Belgium Athletics, everyone who has put a huge amount of work to get these inaugural European Running Championships here in Leuven. This is exactly what they'd have loved to see.
There's the town hall. We just saw the tower go through shot from this fabulous aerial shot. But Herbiet hasn't got it all her own way as yet. There's a male athlete trying to close her down, but she looks to have a big enough gap behind her.
Yes, certainly. When we're just zooming in now on Chloe Herbiet, when we're slightly wider out, you could see Juliette Thomas, who has certainly, I think, gone along the same lines, as you say, on tactics, looking at the track pace, the speed that Diana Van Aert has. You wouldn't have want to leave it too late. And I think Juliette Thomas sensing some weakness in the Dutch athletes and making her own way. You can see there they're hugging either side of the pass. It's Juliette Thomas in the white singlet, who now just moves behind the trees. And well, the gap does seem to be closing to Chloe Herbiet, but will she run out of real estate here, Juliette Thomas? I think so. The tall figure of Diana Van Ness in the orange, now dropping even further back. You can see the orange bib with the blue shorts and the bright blue shoes. Almost equidistant, Juliette Thomas finds herself between Herbiet and Van Ness at this point, and potentially expecting slightly more from Diana Van Ness. We'll talk about it a lot. It is a huge amount to take on the double. We said it in regards to Esther Pfeiffer, just 6 days after setting a new personal best in the half marathon. We saw her struggle, particularly after the halfway point. The German who's fallen further back down the field. And you wonder whether it is something to do with leaving something in the tank for tomorrow. She'll need to be careful, though, the Dutch athlete, because the orange singlet of Mademoiselle Soler just in picture behind. And Diana Van Ness want to ensure that she takes at least a medal at this point, having sat with the lead group for so long.
Thomas bouncing along really nicely there, wasn't she? She looked pretty relaxed, didn't seem too worried about what was going on behind her. And there's this Herbiet rocking from side to side. That's a vertical shot that she just somebody guides her the right way. That always helps. Then you come to a massive corner, you're not quite sure which way to go, but she's on the run in now, 68, nearly 69 minutes on the clock, and it's been a fabulous last 3 or 4K from her to wrestle control of this, Ellen.
Yeah, and to put 9 seconds ahead of now, she's eaten 9 seconds ahead of her compatriot, who is moving along, as you say, Tim, quite nicely, but there is definitely a contrast in terms of the form at the minute between her and Herbiet, who is on her way to a first senior European medal, a first senior European gold, and absolutely flying. You can see the focus there, Juliette Thomas in the white bib just behind, and waiting for Diana Van Ness to come around the corner. She will need to keep her wits about her here, because there is a hungry chase pack who wouldn't have expected maybe necessarily to be in for the medals. And it doesn't seem, I can't see Diana Van Ness there. I wonder whether she's pulled to one side. It is the Italian Sara Nestola, who looks like has made her way up into third place now, and you just wonder whether Van Ness has stepped to the side. Of course, plenty of bibs of the male athletes who are in the mass start, but very hard to see Diana Van Ness there as Chloe Herbiet welcomed home warmly. The 70-minute mark ticks by, but is warmly welcomed. She'll go around the bend, and we'll see the finishing gantry, and it has been a spectacularly timed run from Chloe Herbiet. We'll take one look over the shoulder. She has done more than enough to secure gold at the inaugural European Running Championships. She had the weight of expectation of the nation on her shoulder. She had the pressure of the fastest in the field behind her, but she's overcome it all. And the inaugural European Running Championships winner in the women's half marathon kisses the ground, drops to her knees on home soil. Chloe Herbiet, a brilliant victory, and it will be a 1-2 for Belgium. Juliette Thomas taking second place and the silver medal, and this looking very promising for the Belgium team as a whole. Well, they didn't want to wait around to grab the flags, but they will now collect it. A superb race. And with no Diana Van Ness in sight, the bronze medal will go the way of Sara Nestola of Italy, who for much of that race looked more than out of the medal picture. Mademoiselle Soler looked to be the one who was likely to be capable of bridging the gap. But a brilliant rally from Sara Nestola.
Big question mark over what happened to Van Ness. I'm astonished. She was there, battling up, and with a few hundred meters to go, it looks like she's dropped out.
Yeah, well, when we saw the wide shot at one point, I did wonder just where she'd gone, and we see so many colours of the men's mass start bibs coming through, and I just thought maybe we'd missed it in terms of how many colours there were, but we're still here at the finish line watching the athletes stream over and no sign of Diana van Es at all. And well, potentially, after we've spoken so much about it, that puts question marks around whether we'll see her tomorrow as well.
Well, this is still great running. This Mansfield coming through in around 71.5 minutes because of the, in fact, 72.5 minutes. That clocking on the bottom right of the screen is for the women's start, not for the Mass, who started, what, about another 45 seconds behind. But wow, Chloe Herbiet, the biggest win of her career by miles.
Well, no doubts about that. We saw how much racing on home soil affected Juliette in the European cross-country championships, and just how well that Belgium team did in the senior women. It really caused them to rally, and could hear over the PA on that day, regularly told about just how many points they needed, the gaps they needed to close. And well, there is their third point scorer. I should say it is a time accumulation of your top three athletes, which goes towards the team scores.
Ellen, this is probably the biggest surprise of the day so far, this win. Brilliant win by Chloe Herbiet.
Well, we spoke about it early on in the race, didn't we, about what the tactics would be of Van Es, how she wanted to approach this 90 seconds quicker than the rest of the field based on her personal best. And you did wonder that if she sat on the back of these two, whether in the end it would come to them just picking the right time to surge forward. And Chloe Herbiet definitely did that. And it's so well deserved as well, because she put in so much of the hard work, particularly around the 10k mark. She mentioned there in the interview that the turning back for home, there was still a group of them, and it was her who was pushing the pace the whole way. And in the end, a very deserved winner, and one that the home crowd certainly would have loved to welcome home. A 1-2 for Belgium. Chloe Herbiet, European champion for the very first time. And of course, this the inaugural European Running Championships here in the stunning city of Leuven. And as she mentioned, Tim, what a place to do it. It really does make a difference. We've mentioned before, we saw it at the European Cross Country Championships. We see it every year. We saw it in Rome with the Italians, just how much that support, the home support, really urges them on. And today, another brilliant example of that.
Hi, I'm Juliette. Sign up to the European Athletics YouTube channel.